Happy Hump Day, everyone.
Hump Day, yeah!
You know what they say, when the cat's away, the mouse shall play. Guess who's away? The views and opinions expressed by Addiction by Addict podcast are the opinions of the hosts and does not necessarily reflect the views of others. Addiction by Addict podcast share experiences and opinions in order to reach out to help others who are fighting some sort of addiction or who are going through something similar to what we have. The information provided is for general purposes only. It does not constitute specific legal advice or opinion or any type of medical advice. You should not act, nor should you rely upon any of the information obtained within this podcast without seeking the advice of a qualified physician who specializes in the particular area of expertise and jurisdiction that you require. I'm your host, Jessica Rosado, my sidekick, my pick, partner in crime, my other half, my PETA, pain in the ass, my hashtag sober is sexy man, Neo Tarazinski. He's MIA, missing in action. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. He should know better than to give a Puerto Rican a mic, because we take over.
Shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself any longer. Come on, shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself any longer.
We don't know how to act. So guess what? We're going to get down to nitty gritty today. I'm going to formally introduce myself to you and give you a little bit of more insight as to who Jessica Rosado is. I think I'm getting better at this podcasting thing. I'm actually learning GarageBand a little bit better. It was kind of difficult. You know, it's not written in Spanglish. That's how most us Puerto Ricans speak, Spanglish. But I'm learning. It's a lot to learn. And I think I've printed out about 800,000 pieces of paper with how-to instructions, and it gets a little overwhelming after a while. I'm not gonna lie, it gets a little overwhelming. But I'm trying. We're trying. So what I want to do today is tell you a little bit about myself. Who's Jessica? Jess, or Jay. Call me Jay. My friends call me Jay. You're my friend. You can call me Jay. Well, I can tell you right now that I was born and raised in Camden, New Jersey. Yes, Camden, New Jersey. You heard me right. Camden, New Jersey. Yes. I love Camden, New Jersey. Believe it or not, I do. And I'm going to explain to you why. You have to be a really strong, unique individual to be in Camden. You have to be strong-willed, strong-minded to survive in Camden. Who's Jessica? I was born weighing only 2 pounds. 2 pounds. I can fit in your hand. And being the second to the last sibling, I guess my parents didn't watch TV because they had total like 10 kids. We all know what they were doing. Anywho, yeah, so I have approximately 4 brothers, 4 sisters. One passed away of breast cancer. God rest her soul. And when I was 2 pounds, I was a preemie. The priest came in and read me my last rites. I was not supposed to survive. I was not supposed to survive the night. was not supposed to survive 2 nights, was not supposed to survive a month. But I kept. I guess I'm a strong person. I mean, back in the day, they didn't have the type of technology they have now. Back in the day, you had crib deaths and crazy, like, weird deaths that babies would have. Like, you know how now you're not supposed to lay them on your stomach. You're supposed to lay the babies on their backs. Well, back in the day, everyone put their babies on their stomachs. And a lot of babies died. So this was me being still in the hospital. I was in the hospital for around 3 months, 3 or 4 months, somewhere around there. And then I came home. Boy, was I going to have to be a strong-willed person. That kind of told me right then and there that if I can survive all the odds of staying alive, just weighing 2 pounds, who knows what's down the road for me. Well, my parents, of course, they're Hispanic. My father is from Camuy, Puerto Rico, and my mother is from Bayamon. I went a couple times to Puerto Rico to go see my grandfather before he passed and my family over there, but I have not been there since. I haven't been there in quite some time. Growing up, the house was hectic with all the kids running around and everyone sharing clothes because, you can afford a screw to have 7 kids, but you can't afford to feed them or clothe them. Like, who said you had to feed or clothe them? We had to share clothes. And my sister, who was a year older than me, was not in the mood to share clothes. She was never in the mood to share her clothes. So it was kind of hard on me because all my other sisters were older than me. And I couldn't share clothes with no one. At the age of, I want to say as far as back as I can think, was maybe 5. I remember my parents having parties over at the house of my father and his friends and her friends, and they would come over and drink. And I'm not talking about just a little bit of drink, not a couple of shots here, a couple of shots there. Oh, no. We're talking about that full out big bottle of Bacardi, big bottle of Don Q. I mean, we're talking hardcore liquor, cases of beer. And let me tell you, no one went to sleep until 1, either you were drunk, 2, either you passed out because you were drunk, or 3, there wasn't no more beer. So I think 3 happened first before the other the other 1 and 2. Once you pass out, forget it. There's nothing you can do. You're down for the count. But his friends would come over, and they were always, they were all drinking, so they basically thought that they can try to put us on their laps, if you get what I'm saying. And even though my mom would drink excessively over the weekends, they would never drink during the week because my dad had to go to work. My mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And they handled their business during the week. But when Fridays came, Fridays or Saturdays, forget it. Sunday was hangover day. So when they had their friends over, even though my mother would drink and someone would try to grab us and put us on their laps, my mother immediately would come out of her drunken state and, tell them, no, you don't put my daughter on your lap. No. And she would send us upstairs. We don't know no better. We should be sleeping anyway. We don't know what's going on. Thank God nothing happened. But one thing I can say is that, she kind of livened up very quickly. As we got older, we started seeing more of these drinking episodes. The drinking episodes were sort of like, how can I put it? This year, she would cook on a Friday. And I'm to my right, ajo con gandules, rice and beans. You're talking about, the whole 9 yards. She would go to the store down the street, get some relleno de papas, pasteles, how can I say it, meat pies and round bananas with meat inside. And they're not, it was just awesome. The food was just awesome. But Fridays would come. They would either drink Friday or Saturday or sometimes both days. And it didn't help. We lived across the street from the liquor store. Liquor runs are quick and fast. So basically, they would drink and then they would get into arguments. And I remember sitting there and it would be the most stupidest, the most asinine argument. They wouldn't even know what the hell they argued about or what even started the argument. Something they would go back, bring up conversations 20 years ago. Well, you liked my best friend, or, you were looking at this girl up and down like you wanted to bang her right there. I mean, stuff like that. And they would never remember what the hell the fight was about. But they will always argue when they got drunk. And I'm not talking about it was just a little drunk. I'm talking about the kind of drunk where there's instances that my mother would grab an extension cord and wrap it around my father's neck till he's like red in the face. And my sister and my brother and I, there's 7 of us at the time, and everyone else kind of moved out. They got older. Once you turn 18 in my house, you got the fuck out. You didn't stay. If you stayed, there's something fucking wrong with you, because nobody in their right mind would have stayed in our house. Nobody. And I always wondered, well, how come everybody leaves once they turn 18? I knew. I learned. I saw. I know why they left. So we always used to stay on the steps. And so my mother would get angry at my dad, and they would get into argument, and they would call each other names. And then she'll take an extension cord and wrap it around his neck until his face is like almost blue. And then we have to jump on them and tell her, no, get off of dad, mom, get off. And it was a whole crying type of thing to see your mother trying to strangle your father while they're drinking and you're young. I think I was only like 10, I want to say, somewhere around there. I mean, it was hard to see that. It was just hard. And so every single weekend, it just continued. Another weekend came around and they would drink and get into argument, again. Or my mother would get so drunk that she's passed out on the couch, and, we can't take her upstairs because she's too heavy for us to take upstairs. And so we would leave her where she is. But the thing was, see, there's a catch. The thing is that when they drank, they would make a mess in the house. They would be, I couldn't even tell you, like that rhyme, 100 bottles of beer on the wall, 100 bottles of beer. Yeah, that type of thing, there was more than 100 sitting around in our household. And we had to make sure that we picked up all these beer bottles and these cans, and we had to vacuum, and we had to straighten up, and we had to do the dishes and clean up all the rice that they threw on the table. And we had to clean the entire house before they woke up. God forbid if they woke up and the house was not clean. You would see the wrath of my Puerto Rican mama come out on you because you did not clean the mess that she made. We were basically her little slaves, basically. But those were the rules of our house. And so every weekend, they would get drunk. And every weekend, we would have to clean up all over after them. And it was a lot on us. As we got older, the wrapping the cord around the neck seemed a little immature once they started pulling out the knives. Yeah, I think the extension cord was, it was just a little rough play. They were just playing a little roughly. It came to a point where they started coming out with knives, literally, seriously knives. And they weren't like a little knife, like a little butter knife, or these fucking knives are huge. They would purposely go into the drawers and pull out the biggest fucking knife and put it on each other's necks. Literally necks. Put it right on their neck. And we're like screaming bloody murder because we're like, dad's going to kill mom. Mom's going to kill dad. They're going to kill each other. We're going to be orphans. We're going to be split up. We're never going to see each other again. We're never going to be around our family. It was stressful. When I mean stressful. And so what we did was once Friday would come, we would take the knives and hide them. All the knives. Collect every single ounce. I mean, I don't care if they wanted to eat. If they needed to cut their meat, they need to use their teeth, their choppers, because we were not going to give them a knife. And guess what? They didn't even ask for a knife. They did look for the knife when they were drunk, but not sober. Of course, they came, where's the knives? Where's the knives? I'm going to kill this motherfucker. And we just kind of like went up the steps and we just said, no, Mom, no, Dad, no. And it was just, it was hard. It was crazy. And then it got to the point where I remember my oldest sister, her fiance at the time, wanted to marry her. And, of course, the tradition is you got to go to the parents and ask for her hand in marriage. You know how that goes. Well, apparently that day my mother was drinking. I remember this day very clearly. She was drinking. And you don't ask nothing that can put you in harm's way when my mother's drinking or when my father's drinking. Matter of fact, don't even come over when they're drinking. Don't even think about coming over on the weekends. Forget it. Don't bother. But he was brave. He came over and asked my mom for my sister's hand in marriage. And we forgot to put one knife away. And that knife was sitting right on the table. And my mother says, what? You want to marry my daughter? And she's fast. It's not a lie when they say Puerto Ricans are good with knives. Let me tell you, she was fast. She picked up this knife so fast, twirled it around, and just stabbed him in the knee. Literally, like in between your thighs, right where your knee is, stabbed my future brother-in-law because he asked my mom if he can marry my sister. And all I saw was blood, and I got woozy. I became very woozy. And my sister, of course, she freaked out. And, she basically, was crying. And they had to take him to the hospital. And he, back in the day, they didn't investigate, like, what happened? Who did this? Did someone did this to you? They didn't do that back in the day. Back in the day, you just tell them, I did it myself by accident. I was, I don't know, trying to stab my chicken. Who knows? Trying to cut something, and I cut my leg. Back in the day, you didn't have any of that, like the way we have it here. And we're talking back in I was born in 1969, so it's a pretty good 47 years ago I was born. So yeah, the laws have changed a lot. But she stabbed him in the leg, and she didn't even flinch. She did not flinch. Eyes didn't bat. She looked at him right in the eyes and just stabbed him. And I was like, holy crap. And so once he got stitches, the next day he went to the hospital to go get stitches. And of course we had to clean up the blood. And my mother was like, you don't come here and ask for my daughter's hand in marriage because I don't like you. And so, the next day, like she passed out. The next day, she don't remember stabbing him. Well, she kind of does. She did, but she'll tell you she didn't. She did, but she'll tell you she didn't. And she said, good, I don't care. She has not even no remorse about stabbing a man in the leg. None whatsoever. I was like, oh my goodness. And so it was insane how things were. My father would have his friend come over, and the police was always at our house every single weekend. The police were at our house. They knew us by heart. They knew us by name. They knew my mother's name by heart. And the thing about that was when, we would have to be the ones to call the police because either my dad's strangling my mother, he's trying to kill her. He has a knife on her neck or somewhere on her body, or she's trying to stab him or whatever. They're breaking things and throwing it at each other. We're talking about breaking mugs, glasses, trying to use the glass to slice somebody's neck off. It was hardcore shit. It wasn't nothing that it was like, there's nothing fake and phony in my household. And so shit was real. Shit was real. And I was a nervous wreck. Plenty of nights I didn't sleep because I was so afraid. I would sleep with my door locked. I'm like, shit, she ain't coming in here and killing my ass. I don't think so. That is not happening. So I used to lock my door. And if I see someone, twitching the knobs, I'm like, who there? Who's there? Nobody went and asked. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's not going to come after me and stab me. That is not happening. So my father would have his friends come over. And then my mother would have her friends from North Camden come over. Now, North Camden is badass, let me tell you. North Camden's badass. North Camden is where a lot of back in the day, that's where a lot of the drugs were being sold. And a lot of the shit that was happening. And her friends would come over. And I guess my father's friend says something to one of the women that they so-called got offended. It was like maybe 4 or 5 of them. The women turned around. They all started yelling and screaming at him. And they started taking off their heels. And let me tell you, these heels are like the heels that I wear. They're like 4 inches, 5 inches. They are high. And they took off their shoes and started hitting the poor man over his head with the shoes, with the heel part. All you saw was blood. It was blood squirting all over the place. And the poor man was on the floor. He was being attacked by 4 women. And my mom was just sitting there because she didn't like him anyway. She was like, that's what you got. And my poor father's like, get off of my friend. Get off of my friend. And then after the poor man was laying there, we thought he was dead. They just left. It took off. And now you got this man there bleeding, blood gushing out of his head. And you're like, and no one's doing nothing because everyone's drunk. So you got a man passed out. He's drunk on the floor, bleeding, blood coming out of his head, which he did get stitches. My mother was sitting there on the chair. She was drunk. She wasn't going nowhere. My father went to bed. He was drunk. Thank God the man didn't die. The next morning, he was rushed to the hospital. The next morning, let me tell you, you would die in our house, okay? You aren't going nowhere if people are drinking. If people are drunk, you're screwed. You might as well just dig a hole in the backyard and jump in it because you're done. You're dead. And so I think he got like maybe 5 stitches, something like that. And then like my mother was just, she couldn't stand him anyway. So she was just like, well, he should be careful what he says to people. And then that started a fight with my mom and my dad because my dad's going to defend his friend and my mom is going to defend her friends. And I'm like, they're fucking grown adults. But this is like, what kind of fucking parents are these? Am I the milkman kid? Like, am I? So, and it didn't help, like, because all the drinking that they did all weekend, my brothers drank all the time, except for my oldest brother. But my other 3 brothers, they drank all the time. But to this day, they're functioning alcoholics. Seriously functioning alcoholics. And, it's hard growing up being in that type of environment. We're talking about, I'm not talking about little knives. I'm butcher knife, the machete. Oh, yeah, they pulled out a machete. Oh, yeah. I'm like, what the? At that point, I ran. I don't got nothing. Y'all can kill each other. I'm locking myself in the room. I don't care because I am not going to get caught in the crossfire and get sliced in half or something. Hell no. I went upstairs to my room. So as we got older, it kind of got boring and kind of got old, because we're like, oh, she's getting drunk again. And so, or he's getting drunk again, or they're partying this weekend again, and they love to party. One Christmas came around and they got into an argument about the Christmas tree. And that's another thing. The holidays were so, especially Christmas, it was so bizarre. Like, she would buy Christmas gifts on December 24th. She would go out all day and buy all this shit, all this Christmas stuff, bring it all home. And we got to lug bags and bags into the dining room and put everything on top of the table, and she starts drinking. Okay. Then we're like, okay, you're going to wrap these up, Mom? She's like, oh, hell no, you're going to wrap them up. I'm like, what? What? She's like, oh, yeah. You can wrap that up. That's your gift. That's your gift. That's your gift. That's your sister's. And she would put stickies on all the gifts as to whose was what. So Christmas in my house was not a surprise. We kind of already knew what we had. Christmas in my house was very different than probably most individuals. And then I stood there on Christmas Eve all day long, wrapping gifts, wrapping my own gift, as a matter of fact, wrapping my brother's gifts, my sister's gifts, my father's gifts, everybody's gifts. I stood there and had to wrap every single gift. Now remember, we're getting older now, and all my brothers pretty much left the house, and my sister, it's only my sister, my brother, and I. And my brother's the baby. I'm the second. My sister is a little older than me. And that kind of took this Christmas spirit away from me, kind of like, I already know what I got, so why do I have to open it? Why do I have to open it? I already know what I got. Not a big deal. That's the attitude I had. But then the kicker is this, like, we had this tradition where you had to wait at exactly 12 o'clock midnight before my mother would allow us to open up the gifts. So my sister and brother didn't know what they were getting for Christmas, obviously, because they weren't the ones wrapping up the gifts. And me, we all kind of sit there on the floor and she's in a rocking chair, and we're watching, I don't know, Frosty the Snowman or something like that. And then 12 o'clock comes and we open up. I have to go hand out the gifts. They open them all up, and I always left mine for last because I already knew what I was getting. It wasn't exciting for me. It wasn't for nothing, because on Christmas Day, they started drinking again. And that took all the fun out of everything. And then she was mad at my father for something. And she shook the Christmas tree. She shook the Christmas tree very violently. Like, she was, it was something about the Christmas tree, because he was making fun of the Christmas tree. And she was like, well, if you want this fucking Christmas tree, you should go ahead and buy it yourself. I went out there and I got the Christmas tree. You don't like it? I don't give a fuck. And she, like, let me tell you something right now. My mother, the F-bomb was a normal word in our house. Carajo. When she starts with the carajo, you better run. She starts with the, oh, hell, oh, the whole raising of her voice and getting pissed off, run. And she was relentless with this tree. I don't know exactly what the argument was about, but I know it has to do with my dad making fun of the tree. And she took this tree, and it had, I just, I decorated it like 3 days before Christmas, because my mother waits for the last minute for everything. And I remember how pretty it looked. And then here she comes, shaking the tree with all the fucking balls on it. Shaking it rough. Balls are flying off the tree, and she throws the entire tree on the floor. Here it comes, crashing down. All the fucking balls. She busted all my balls that I put up on the tree. fucking balls were broken all over the place. Glass all over the place. The only thing I can do is just sit there on the steps and just watch them. My eyes wide open, my mouth to the ground. Eventually, I put my teeth, my fingernails in my mouth. That's why I couldn't even grow nails growing up. I was so damn nervous. That Christmas tree came straight down. And it stayed on the ground. It stayed on the ground. And they continued to drink. And the Christmas tree stayed on the ground. And the next day, when it was picked up, because we had to do it before they woke up, we also had to pick up all the broken balls and the ornaments. And you know how like when you have a child and they go to school and you keep your ornaments, like from kindergarten, you make a little ornament, you bring it home, and then, first grade and second grade, and little pictures with you on a wreath, that they, they give you for school, and then you take that and you put it on the tree. Ho, 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 look how pretty this is. And we'll put it on the tree, and every year there's always one added on and added on, added on. I don't have any of those because either they broke, they were trashed, something happened to them, because when they were drinking, some shit always happens. I mean, we barely had electricity sometimes. My father worked, bust his ass. My mother started working, but a lot of times their money went to, my mother was a shopaholic, and alcohol. And I couldn't have any of my friends over. Oh, God forbid. You know how embarrassing that is? Bringing over a friend. No fucking electric. I mean, it was bad enough that I would come home and a couple of my friends would be walking behind me and they're like, oh, can I come over? I'm like, oh, no, nobody's home. I have to wait outside. And then they'll sit outside with me. I'm trying to get them away from my house because I know my parents are in there, but there's no light. There's no electric. So eventually they would leave. They would go home. And then I would go in the house. The house would be all dark. You couldn't see anything. And my parents would have candles out. And we would sit there and sing campfire songs. And it would be cold. It would be so cold sometimes. Especially in the wintertime. I'm not talking about we would just not have our electric on. Like, our electric was off at least. There's 12 months in a year. At least 10 of the months. Every month it was off about a week and a half, 2 weeks. At least. And we would sit there with candles and just sit there and freeze. It was horrible in the wintertime. You would be so cold. You would have to sleep with clothes on and your coat and your socks and your sneakers. You slept with everything on to try to stay warm. That was the only thing. That was the only way we could stay warm. You had no electric, no heat, no nothing. And then when my father would get paid, he would give my mother the money and she would go pay the electric. And then the following weekend, that same weekend, they start drinking again. Until next month when they cut off the electric again. And I don't know how many houses we had to move. We moved so much. I mean, I want to say 7 or 8, 9 maybe houses that my parents actually bought. And because they didn't pay the mortgage, we lost the house and we had to keep moving. It was tough. And this was all in Camden. It was tough. It really was. Meanwhile, I had my friends as I got older. I had my friends who had normal families. You know, they were hanging out. They were having a good old time. And I was not allowed to go out. I was not allowed to go out at all. It was just, the way my mother was. That's the way she was. And it was her house, her rules. So my sister turned 18 and she left. And I was so mad at her because she left me with the parents. She left me there. And I was so mad because my baby brother, of course, he was the favorite one. and then it's me. So whenever they would drink, yep, guess who had to clean it up? Just me now. And I couldn't have friends over. I didn't have friends over. And it was tough growing up. When I turned 17, I think I really started going out when I was 16, just hanging out. And I was hanging out with my girlfriend and her boyfriend, and he had a brother. So we all four of us was kind of like hanging out. Well, yeah, get pregnant at age 17 was not a good idea. Yeah, well, it wasn't an idea to begin with, but it kind of did not help things with me and my life. First time, talk about fertile myrtle. So it happens. And that shit scared the shit out of me. I didn't have sex for like the next 3 years. I didn't want nobody touching me. But yeah, I held my own though. You know, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother hump day. But yeah, I held my own. And throughout all the years, and what I'm talking about, I fought back from 5 years old till my mother passed away approximately 5 years ago. And she was still drinking. And she didn't pass away from alcoholism. She passed away from an aneurysm. But to grow up in that type of environment, to put your children in that type of environment, I always said to myself, I'm not going to, when I have this was before I had my child. I always said to myself, I am not going to be like my parents. When I have kids, I am not going to be like that. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to do drugs. And growing up in that environment kind of made me not want to do any drugs or do any drinking. As a matter of fact, I can tell you right now, I'm from Camden and I've never gotten high before. Never. I drank alcohol, yeah, but typically everybody's gotten high before, right? I've never. Not me. Once I had my daughter, I just kind of focused on my life and what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do with myself, you know. 17 years old, having a baby, it's not a good idea. It was not good. It wasn't good at all. No bueno. That was no bueno. But guess what? God does not give you things that you can't handle. He's going to keep giving you. If he thinks you can handle it, you may feel like as if you're going to break. You may feel like as if you're on your last straw. You may feel like you can't do anymore. But God knows the type of person that you are. God knows because he sees what's in your soul. He sees what's in your heart. He knows you. You're his child. We are all his child, all his children. And he's going to keep giving you and giving you because he knows you can handle it. Because either he wants to make you a strong person, a stronger individual. He wants you to be whatever he wants you to be. Open. He wants you to trust. You're going to go through things for a reason. There's a reason why shit happens. And I believe that. Shit happens for a reason. Shit just don't happen for no reason. But I tell you one thing. I did, growing up, as I got older, I did drink, but not excessively. And I never really got drunk. Like, I got my buzz on. Like, yeah, hey, party. But no, I never really got drunk where I threw up. One time. And I was in my late 30s. And that's because I didn't eat. You got to eat before you start drinking. Because that alcohol hits you, forget it. You're done. You're done. But I really don't drink like that. And I think it's because, not that I think, I know it's because of my upbringing. I've been around alcoholism or alcoholics all my life. My brothers, they're all functional alcoholics. You go in the refrigerator, they may not have milk, but they have beer. Okay, and that's the same thing with my parents. They always drank every single weekend. But that's the life I lived. And you know what? That kind of made me stronger. It made me realize that I don't want to be like those people, my parents. I don't want to be a parent like my parents. It's very dysfunctional. I swear to you, I must be the mailman's kid. I have to be the mailman's kid. Something happened when he delivered some milk over here because I always felt like the black sheep, or I felt out of place, or I don't know. But to have to go through so many years of watching your parents try to kill each other with knives, and try to stab each other with forks, and they couldn't get the knives, they try to get the forks. If they don't get the forks, they try to get the things that you I don't know, I don't cook, and I don't cook, but those things that you hold the chicken with, the two pointy things, they'll try to do that. I mean, they'll find something. But the main important thing was these knives, because they were not playing around. So far, you know a little bit of who Jessica is. There's a lot more to know about me. And I promise I'll open up more as the weeks go by. But I wanted to give you an idea as to why I'm happy that we're doing Addiction by Addicts podcast, because alcoholism or any type of addiction, drugs, it shatters families. I know. I lived it all my life. It scars people. It makes you not want to have a drink at all. And sometimes it makes you want to drink. It makes you want to become an alcoholic. It makes you want to break down and drink. Because sometimes when life gets rough, and like for me, when things get rough, and I don't run to, wine or beer or something like that to forget about my problems. But a lot of times I feel like I'm about to break. And a lot of times I want to become an alcoholic. Like the inside of me want to just say, fuck it. I don't give a shit no more. This is how I'm living my life right now. I want to be irresponsible. I don't want to fucking do shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about nothing no more. All I want to do is drink and be oblivious of everything that's going on around me. I do. Sometimes I want to be like that. And I have to fight that urge. Because I know I can't be like that. Because I have children. And I made a promise to myself and to them that I would never put them through what my parents put me through. No one deserves that. Okay. I'm going to wrap up from right there. I'm not sure how we are performing on our podcast. I mean, I'm asking if you can send us some feedback maybe. Just let us know if there's something we can tweak or something we can change or something else that needs to be done to make it more popular, or to make it more, or corrections. Make corrections. Like I said, I'm new to all of this. I don't even like how my voice sounds, but I don't care. Fuck it. I'm a Puerto Rican. I don't care. So yeah, if you can send us some feedback, I would truly appreciate it. Our email is addictionbyaddicts@gmail.com. Our blog or website is www.addictionbyaddicts.wordpress.com. And you can also visit us on Facebook, which is www.facebook.com/ I believe, Addiction by Addicts. And yeah, so I appreciate you listening to us. I appreciate you. If you listened to us in the past 2 podcasts, I appreciate you coming back to listen to this third one. And I hope to see some type of comments or something from you. But yeah, you're starting to get to know me. And that's a good thing. And that's why I wanted to start this Addiction by Addicts. Because I know what some people are going through. I may not be the one drinking, but I know. I've been through it. All right. I'm gonna end this podcast now, and I want you to behave. Be good. Stay sober. Go to your meetings. You can send me a message on Instagram and or I forget what the fuck else. Instagram or something else. Send me a message. If you have any questions, comments, I would love to hear from you. Okay? Dios te bendiga. That means God bless you. Have a good night. Ciao.